guys? My name is Lauren and welcome back to my channel where we talk about money and mindset as well as my family's own journey to pay off six-figure debt. So if you like videos like that, then make sure you hit that red subscribe button down there so you don't miss any new videos. Next week will be the 1-year anniversary of me quitting my full-time job as a lawyer to be a stay-at-home mom and do YouTube full-time, part-time, go it all in with YouTube. And so I thought I would give you guys an update as to how it's gone the past year. Like, how am I feeling 1 year later? What is life like? Do I regret it? How the changes to our income impacted me and my family and all that good stuff. So I did ask you guys just what questions you'd want answered on YouTube and over on my Instagram, which I will link right here if you're not already following me there. But before I get into all those questions, and you guys had so many good questions that's probably going to be the bulk of this video, but before I get into answering questions, I will give you a little background in case you're not familiar. I did make a video a year ago when I quit, telling you guys that I quit my job and going through my thinking at that time. So I will link that video below if you want to watch it first. But right now I'll just give you guys a quick summary recap as to like my journey in my career as an attorney. So where to begin? Straight from high school, I went into undergrad, and from undergrad I went straight to law school. During that whole period of time, I struggled with drug addiction on and off, and I have a whole video talking about that as well that I'll link in the video description. But yeah, I'm not going to get into all those details in this video, but that was a big part of my life for many, many years. And while I was able to keep up with my grades and keep moving forward in school, it was a huge struggle for me. And so when I graduated law school, I did pass the bar exam, and I half-heartedly looked for jobs, but was really not enthused with the idea of being a lawyer and was still struggling heavily with drug addiction, and that kind of hit its peak, and I had a really, really bad period of time for a while with drugs. It ended with me going to rehab. So I was in rehab about a year after I graduated law school, and during that year I had been working at a restaurant as a server and hadn't started my legal career. So after rehab, it took me several years to kind of like get back on my feet physically, mentally, emotionally before I decided to look for a job as an attorney. During law school, looking back, if I'm being really honest, like I remember specifically a moment my first semester of law school where I was walking through the campus and I was like, yeah, I can do this, but I don't want to. Like, I don't want to, I don't like it, and I want to quit. And so like the whole time since the beginning of law school, even before law school, I knew in my heart that I really didn't want to go, but for a multitude of reasons, which I'm not going to get into, I went anyway. And so yeah, but the point when I was 3 years out of school and recovering from drug addiction and had been sober for the first time in my life in a long time, I did start looking for a job and get a job working with an attorney that I loved, and I had a great relationship with her, but I just didn't necessarily enjoy the work. And so from there I moved to another firm about a year later, a medium-sized firm. There was about like 50, 60 attorneys at that firm, much bigger than just working with one attorney, and tried that experience for 5 years. So in total, I practiced for 6 years. At the point when I quit, it was actually almost 6 years to the day that I had practiced law and really didn't like it the whole time. Not only did I not like the firm that I was at for the bulk of my career, but I didn't like the work that I was doing. I didn't like the profession as a whole. It wasn't a good fit for my personality and just what I want out of life. Now, why stay that long in a career that you hate, or why even go for it at all after school if you don't want to do it? The number one reason was my student loans. I had over $200,000 of student loans. It started out at about $160,000 and then it grew over time because of compound interest. At its worst, I think it was at about $210,000. So it ballooned by like 50 grand, and I just felt a responsibility that, you know, I had taken on this debt. It was in my name. I needed to handle it. And so I needed to get a high-paying job where I could at least pay it off and get back to where I started at age like 21 when I had originally gotten into law school. And yeah, it kind of felt like it was going to be a lost decade of my life of, you know, going to school and then working this career that I hated just to get back to zero. But you know, you learn stuff along the way and you don't know what valuable lessons are going to help you later down the road. So I was trying just to like not worry about that aspect of it and just get the money to pay the loans back and go from there. However, I just couldn't do it anymore. I was just so unhappy, and once I had my daughter, I just didn't want to miss out on the time with her. I wanted to be home with her, and I had started sharing my debt-free journey on YouTube. And I had originally started on YouTube talking about my infertility journey, and then once I had my daughter, I started talking about our money and our debt. And that had kind of grown into like a side business. So at one point, my husband and I sat down and we set a goal for me to be able to quit my job by a certain date, and for me to work on YouTube until then and try to grow it as much as I could, but also plan to live off of mostly his salary, if not all his salary, in case YouTube like totally just didn't work out. And still be able to move forward on our financial goals. And so in June of 2021, I did quit my job as an attorney, and here we are 1 year later. So let's take a look at the questions you guys had. I'm gonna try to go as quickly as I can through them, but this is kind of probably gonna be a long video because this is already kind of long and I haven't even started the questions. So anyway, okay, first question, do you regret quitting? Do you think it would be better to go back to work to meet your financial goals? No, not at all. I have zero regrets. Our income did go down. Obviously, when I quit, I was making 6 figures as an attorney. However, between the savings and childcare costs and the income I was projecting to make through YouTube, it wasn't going to be a 6-figure hit, but it was going to be a significant hit to our income. And as it turns out, my YouTube income has been lower than I projected, which, you know, we planned for that contingency, but it's obviously disappointing a little bit, but I'm trying not to worry about it too much because this year that I've got with my daughter you can never get that time back. She's just turned 3, so ages 2 to 3, I've had her full time, and it has been so wonderful, and I've enjoyed, not every second because motherhood and parenthood is challenging, but I've enjoyed so much of it. I've gotten to bond with her so much. It's been a dream for me. So I don't regret it at all. I knew that our financial progress would slow down with me quitting. I knew that my student loans weren't paid off at the time that I quit. I couldn't last any longer, and you know, I go over all those numbers in detail and all our debt payoff updates and stuff if you're not familiar. So, you know, subscribe if you want to see all the numbers of where we're at with everything. But I don't regret it at all. Although we would be further along in our debt payoff if I hadn't quit, for sure. Like, no doubt we would have paid off another, like, probably $30,000 of debt or more at this point if I hadn't quit. Okay, next question. Could you touch on your mindset at the time, hesitancies, fears you had before you decided to take the plunge to quit your full-time stable income? How long did it take to wrestle with those fears? Once you did it, you know, how did you feel? Were you nervous, scared, excited? Okay, I knew for a long time I wanted to quit. And it just was gathering the courage to do it and getting to a financial position where we could afford for me to do it and still make progress on our financial goals, because that was really important to me. We started our debt-free journey in January of 2020 and had paid off a lot of debt the first year, and I just wanted to make sure that we were going to continue down that trajectory because my husband and I had been accumulating debt for the majority of a decade, and we couldn't live like that anymore either. So we kind of hit a breaking point with our finances after my daughter was born and started our debt-free journey. And then from there, I was like, I'm only going to quit if I know we can keep making progress on paying off debt. So we had to pay off our high interest debt. We have to consolidate and refinance some things and get to a point where my YouTube was making enough steady income that I could kind of rely on that. And my husband got, you know, promoted and raises. And so we did have to wait a little bit till we could get there, but it was probably about a year before I quit that I really decided, like, yes, this is what I'm gonna do eventually. And then from there, it took about a year, 6 months to a year maybe, to make the decision. How was I feeling? I wasn't nervous at all. I was just excited. I was done. I was so burnt out. I was ready. You know, for me, I had the luxury and the privilege of not needing to replace my full-time income when I quit, because I do have a partner who makes a good salary, and so his salary was going to carry us for a while, and there have been points where my salary carried us while he went back to school while we were married, and you know, so it's not always even of who's bringing in the most money in a marriage, and I think that's fine because you're a team, and the way we look at it is just one pile of money for our families. So I did have that luxury of not needing to make a certain dollar amount from my own business here on YouTube and the related stuff that I do, which took a lot of pressure off. If that wasn't the case and I was like switching careers fully, I can see there being a lot more considerations to make, although if you're that unhappy in a career, like, I can tell you, don't stick in it. Don't. Like, there's no amount of money that's worth being unhappy. And being unhappy, I feel like I wasted my whole 20s being unhappy, stuck in drug addiction, not getting therapy, not getting rehab, in a career I hated. Like, it's just, now I'm 35 and I can't get that time back, which is why at the point when I decided I wanted to leave my career, I knew I wouldn't regret it, because like, I can never get this time back. And time is our most precious, valuable resource. Money is obviously very important for security, for stability, for health and well-being, but the toll it takes on your mental health to be in a job that you really, really don't like is so bad. If you haven't experienced it, I'm happy for you. But if you have, or you're in it now, like, I feel for you, because it is one of the worst feelings to have to get up almost every single day of your life to go to a job that you're really unhappy in. How have friends and family received the news? How did you deal with criticism if this was the case? I'm rooting for you. I love your content. Thank you. I think that I'm kind of not really going to get into this question fully because it's kind of a complicated answer, but I'll say in general that people have been supportive but concerned, because they want to make sure that we're going to be okay financially. And I think also there's kind of like, even though YouTube's been around for a long time, I think that there's still this feeling that like YouTube or social media is not a real job, but like selling a tangible product or service is a real job. So I think that a lot of people still don't understand exactly what this means to do YouTube. And so the unknown, I think, can be a little bit confusing, but at the end of the day, like, I didn't really care what people thought, because I just knew so strongly that this was the right decision for me, and making decisions based on what other people think had led me down the wrong road in my past, so I just didn't really care. Which work stresses did you get rid of, and which, if any, have you gained? Which metrics are most important to you resetting and tracking goals in order to evaluate the progress of your YouTube channel? So I got rid of so much stress from a toxic work environment, from work I didn't like. Being an attorney, you know, is a very stressful job. Going to court, having clients have unreasonable expectations. Being an attorney, there's lots of attorneys who are just miserable in their jobs because it is such a hard job. And attorneys have a bad reputation for being like, you know, greedy and just not good people, but like, we're just regular people who are good people trying to do a good job, and it's a really hard job. So I got rid of a lot of stress, like all my work stress. What stress did I gain? I mean, you have to, when you run your own business, you have to make your own schedule. You have to decide how hard you're going to push yourself. You have to bring in all the money that's coming, and you're not getting a steady paycheck. So I think that it was a little bit of an adjustment to get into a new routine, but at the same time, I'm not like somebody who has trouble working hard. I have the opposite problem where I like push myself too hard for too long, which is what happened with law school and being a lawyer and stuff. So I think it's been an easy transition for me because I am such a hard worker naturally, which is something I'm trying to like get away from, honestly, a little bit. Like that toxic hustle culture mentality of needing to work like super hard all the time. Like as an attorney, I was working probably, my law firm was like a lifestyle firm, so I was probably working like 50 hours a week. And when I quit my job, I was watching my daughter 40 hours a week, and then on my side business on YouTube working 20 to 30 hours a week on top of that. So I was much busier once I quit, and so kind of adjusting to that. But I have pulled back on that significantly since I've been pregnant. So there've just been phases. Like I did a debt payoff course, and when I was filming that and editing and preparing all of that, I was working a lot. And then now that I'm getting towards the end of pregnancy, I'm almost 37 weeks pregnant at the time I'm filming this, I am working closer to like 10, 15 hours a week. What metrics are most important to me? I mean, I'm looking at the bottom line. I'm looking at how much money I'm bringing in each month minus my expenses, which are very minimal. So I'm just trying to maintain at least a certain level of income and increase that over time, which is hard because you can't always control it. Some months I'll get, you know, $500 or $1,000 in referrals for different products that I talk about that I love and use myself. In other months, you know, the ad revenue will drop and I won't get as much referrals, and my like Etsy shop won't sell as much, and my course doesn't make as many sales. Like it's very variable. So you have to prepare for the ups and downs, which you plan for it. And as long as you're planning for it, then it's not as stressful because you know that you've planned for worst case scenario. Okay, if you're giving advice of others thinking of getting into these high cost professions, what would you tell them? I imagine it happens often that someone finds out being a lawyer or doctor isn't right for them after incurring all the time and expense. Honestly, my number one tip is to take time off after undergrad and intern or work in the field that you're thinking of going into before you decide to make a $100,000 investment in school to go into that profession. And if you're not certain, no matter what the circumstances are around you or what you think you should be doing, listen to your gut and don't do it. Like, just follow your heart, listen to your gut. You are the best one to know what's right for you. And so just trust yourself when you're making these decisions that you will make the right one. And yeah, that's my best advice for, deciding whether to get into one of these high cost professions. Also, I'd say understand the student loans before you take them out. So I always talk about Student Loan Planner, and I'll link them below in the video description. But they are a company that helps advise people on their student loans, and they know all about all the federal programs and all the changes that are going on and on private loans. They're just a great resource, and they do private consultations on student loans for individuals. But like, there's so many programs. Like, if you work in the public sector, you can get public student loan forgiveness. So you only have your loans for 10 years and they disappear, but you need to stay in the profession for a decade. Like, is that something you want to commit to? So there's a lot of things to take into account, but I would say get educated with the student loan system and follow experts who are talking about what's going on with student loans so you understand the debt you're taking on before you do it. Would you ever consider going back or doing some consulting work to make extra income? If my husband were to be in a position where he couldn't make money anymore for some reason, like he got severely ill or disabled or something like that, I would 100% go back and do it to take care of my family. Short of that, no, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do anything that required a legal license to do the work. Like, no, I just wouldn't, for sure, no. My law degree and my knowledge as a lawyer has come in handy for some things, like when I'm negotiating contracts for stuff I'm doing with YouTube and stuff like that. I know what to look for. I feel confident in doing those types of things. So for my own purposes, I can use my legal knowledge, but other than that, I don't think I'll use it for anything to make money. Okay, next question. Have you reached what you hoped for income from YouTube? And if you didn't, how do you feel? My projections so far, depending on how the year ends up, you never know, but I'm taking some time off when I have this baby. So likely it's not gonna increase a ton towards the second half of the year. My projections for what I was gonna make are about 15,000 less than I thought I was going to. And that's significant. Considering how much money I'm making, which I'm not going to say because my husband's salary is something he wants to keep private. So if I tell you guys exactly how much I make and then I show you guys all our other finances behind the scenes, which I do, you're going to be able to figure out how much he makes. So that's something he has requested that I do keep private, and I want to respect that. But yeah, $15,000 is a significant amount of money to be short. And on top of that, there's inflation, which is projecting, households are going to spend $5,000 to $7,000 more this year on stuff than they thought. So it is impacting us financially, but the thing is, I'm not going to give up and get discouraged. I'm just confident that I'm going to keep putting out good quality content, keep telling my story, keep sharing my knowledge, and bringing value to my audience, and that it is going to end up being a good business for me at some point down the road. So yeah, things sometimes grow slower than you expect when you have your own business, and that's just part of it. I am a little disappointed, but at the same time, the value that I've gotten from quitting my job and getting to spend this year with my daughter is priceless, so I'm not that upset about it. And again, I do realize I'm very privileged to be able to say being short $15,000 is not something I'm that upset about, because that's, what some people make in 6 months. So I don't want to be flippant about that, but at the same time, I'm being honest with you guys about how I feel. Wondering if you make the same doing YouTube minus daycare you used to pay. So no, there's definitely, a discrepancy. So last year we ended the year making about $215,000. And this year, I think we're gonna end the year making about $175,000. So that's like a $40,000 difference. And the daycare savings is about $25,000. So that $15,000 short. Like if I had hit my goals, or if I do hit my goals for YouTube by the end of the year, we'll kind of break even. But if we do end up on the trajectory that we're on and I am short on my YouTube revenue for the year, then we are gonna be short income wise. But with YouTube and social media, most people who are successful grow it slowly over time. It's rare to have a video go viral and just become an overnight success. So I went into it obviously hopeful that something like that could happen, but knowing that I had a plan if nothing like that happened. So yeah, that's where we're at, like, income wise. Are you happy? Yes, 100%. I'm happy with my decision. Like, I wouldn't say I'm perfectly happy in life. There's always stuff to work on. I go to therapy. I've got tons of issues that I'm working on. That has also been a blessing of the last year. I've had like some amazing breakthroughs in therapy that I don't think could have happened if I was still stuck in my stressful career. So I'm working on happiness overall in life, but am I happy with this decision? 100% hands down, 100% happy, no regrets. Okay. And then this is the last question from YouTube, which I really like this question. I think it's really important, so I'm gonna talk about it. And it said, it seems like you had a longer journey getting pregnant with your first daughter. Do you think it took you longer to get pregnant the first time around because of work-life stress? It seems like this time around you got pregnant a lot sooner. Okay, so anyone out there who's struggling to get pregnant, I think it's really important to understand that it is not your fault. And even if you have stressful surroundings, like, that is not what's preventing you from getting pregnant. And I think it's a really good question, and I'm glad this person asked it, but I need you guys to understand, like, stress is not going to prevent you from getting pregnant. If you can't get pregnant, it is not your fault because of like your mental well-being. There are women who are in very stressful situations who live in like war-torn countries that get pregnant. So I'm really, really adamant about this, that people don't blame themselves for what their body is failing to do. Because while mental health can have physical impacts on your body, when it comes to fertility and pregnancy, like, it is a medical issue that's going on as to why your body's not ovulating, or you're not able to have egg implants because of like genetic stuff, or a multitude of other reasons that can cause infertility. So I don't think the stress was the biggest factor. I think the biggest factor was I had a problem with my thyroid. I found that out about 1.5 years into trying to get pregnant, and went on thyroid medication, and boom, started ovulating regularly and got pregnant within 6 months of going on the medication, which that medication takes a few months to like absorb into your body. So if you look at when the thyroid medication was fully in effect to when I actually had a successful pregnancy, it only took a few months, which is normal. So after my daughter was born, I stayed on the thyroid medication and then got pregnant again when we started trying again within 4 months. So no, I don't think it was the stress of my job. I think that it's not ideal to be trying to get pregnant while you're in a very stressful job or career, but I don't think that impacted at all why I was able to get pregnant sooner this time around rather than last time. Okay, on to the Instagram questions. So, what was your husband's initial reaction when you wanted to quit? How did you explain it to him? He wasn't surprised. I mean, we had been dating since I had been in my first year of law school. Like, we started dating my second semester of the first year, and he knew all along, like, I wanted to quit when we were dating, when like the first month we started dating. And so, I mean, he was there with me through drug addiction and rehab, and he's got his own side of the story in that regard that is not my place to talk about, but yeah, he's been there through all of it with me. So he was not surprised when I wanted to quit, and he was very supportive, and he just wanted us to get to a place where I could quit and be home with our daughter, and has been wonderful in supporting me in that. So I love him very much for that. I'm a lawyer, 34 years old, and I can't do this forever. When did you know you were done with the law? I knew in law school. I knew it wasn't a good fit. But the thing is, like, it doesn't matter when you figure it out. Once you know it, you can't unknow it. So I'd say as soon as you know it, start working on a plan to switch careers, because it takes some time. You can't do it overnight. We saved up thousands of dollars to supplement my income for a while. We, spent 1.5 years paying off debt. We did a bunch of stuff before we got to a point where I could quit. So I would say put an end goal in place and work backwards and make a plan, because once you know that it's just not the right fit. Was it hard going from an office setting to work at home with a toddler instead? Tips. Yes and no. It had been like 1 year into COVID that I was working from home already. So I was used to not going into the office, and I loved that. I'm a very introverted person, so that wasn't bad. When I quit, my daughter was still taking naps, so a lot of times I would work during a nap. She would take a 2-hour nap in the middle of the day, so I'd work during that time, and then nights and weekends. When she stopped napping, that became a little more difficult, but it's something that was worth it to stay up a little later a couple nights a week to do some work when she was asleep and not have to go into an office. So I totally, like, it was a totally smooth transition for me personally. I think for someone who's more extroverted and really like socializing and like office banter and stuff like that, I think it may be a little more isolating, but I felt great about it. And that really goes to show it's important to know yourself when you're making these decisions, and why therapy has been so helpful. I've been in therapy for almost 3 years now, and it's really helped me like get back to myself and know like what I want. So as I go into these decisions, I do it with confidence and I make the right decision instead of not really know what I want and make not necessarily the wrong decision, but just a decision this is not the right fit. Do you regret your college degree? I assume you mean like my law degree. My college degree, I got a full scholarship to a state school, and if I hadn't, it was only $12,000 at the time for me to go to that school all 4 years, so it was pretty inexpensive for undergrad. But law degree, do I regret it? I think it's too early to say, and it doesn't really matter because what's done is done. So I think at the end of my life, when I look back, maybe I'll think that a lot of good came out of that experience, you know, just like looking back, I think my drug addiction has taught me so much, and I'm like grateful for a lot of parts of it, of what I've learned, even though it was top 3 hardest things I've ever gone through in my life. The other top 2 being law school and infertility. But yeah, so I would say no, I don't regret it, but I don't think I'll really be able to assess that till I'm much older. Do you regret leaving the workforce when you did from a financial perspective? Nope. I mean, of course I'd love to have more debt paid off, but we're paying off debt every single month. We're on track to be debt free, and no, we can afford all the things we need, healthy groceries, going to do fun activities with my family. I don't regret it at all. Best thing that has come out of leaving your last job, I think just improvements in my mental health and my ability to be there for myself and my family. How much prep did you do before you actually got to quit? Again, I've touched on this, but we planned for about 6 months to a year before I actually quit, financially and building up my YouTube, you know, income and stuff like that. What is the biggest thing that surprised you? I think the biggest thing that surprised me is how little I regret my decision. Like, I was worried I was gonna have doubts or look back and be like, was this the right thing? And I just haven't. My therapist even commented on that. She was like, wow, you quit and you never looked back. I'm like, yeah, I did, I guess. All right, do you wish you had gotten a job somewhere else? I mean, sometimes I wish I was working for an employer with a steady paycheck that was just a part-time work from home job, and I've considered doing that in the months that I've had worse YouTube income, but I think that I will consider that more seriously like a little bit down the road. So like when my kids are in elementary school, I can see myself, if this hasn't grown to what I want it to be income-wise, working like part-time for an employer on a work-from-home basis and doing something where I can leverage my experience as an attorney to make decent money doing something else. But right now, I'm just in the mode of do the best we can with the money we have and the situation we're in, and just enjoy time with my kids when they're young, and then think about bigger financial moves and bigger career moves in like 3 to 5 years. Has your YouTube channel grown as much as you thought it would? I've talked about this like income wise, but like subscriber wise, yeah, I'm on track for where I want to be. I was hoping to end this year with between 15 and 20,000 subscribers, and I've hit 15 already. So depending on how the rest of the year goes, I'm in the range of where I thought I would be. And my Instagram has grown. I'm trying to hit like 5,000 followers on Instagram by the end of the year. I started out with less than 1,000. So I've already hit like 4,500. So my stuff is growing at the rate I'm wanting to, just the income isn't growing at that same rate. So I think maybe I had a misunderstanding of how the income would grow as the subscriber base grew on the different platforms. Also, I am very picky with who I work with, and so I get emails all the time, hey, we'll pay you, you know, $1,000+ for a 30-second spot in your video if you talk about this or that, but it's a product or a service that I don't necessarily believe in, so I don't take that opportunity. And so I could be making a lot more money, but because I have like a very strict set of criteria, like integrity wise, for what I want to do with my channel and the information I want to put out there and the types of things I want to support, I am missing out on certain income opportunities, which is an intentional conscious decision because I'm looking at this as a long-term thing for building an audience that knows and trusts me for my expertise in the personal finance field. So yeah, that's another aspect of it, that I could be making more money in a lot of ways that I choose not to. How did you overcome the fear of knowing that you were taking a risk with the debt still there? I mean, I think one of the biggest things was just knowing that my husband has a good salary, which I'm lucky. If I was single, I wouldn't have had that same situation and I couldn't have quit in the way I did. But I also wouldn't have been in the same situation financially because we wouldn't have taken on his student loan debt and everything would have been different. So, but overcoming the fear, I think it got to a point where I hit a breaking point. Like I knew the fear was less than the pain I was feeling from continuing in the career. And once I hit that breaking point, it was an easy decision. So I'm gonna stop it there. There are more questions, but a lot of them are kind of duplicates or overlapping to things I've already talked about in the video. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I thought it'd be really interesting to reflect back 1 year after joining the Great Resignation, I guess, and just talk to you guys about how everything's going and just be really honest about how it was for me. If you can relate to things in this video, if you're on the other side of things, I hope this helps you have confidence in building a plan and making a decision for yourself. It's a really hard decision, especially in a time of financial turmoil like right now, but you gotta weigh things seriously. But quality of life, mental health, and your time are things you can never get back, whereas money is something you can always make more of at some point later in life. So I think as long as you're in a position where you're gonna still make progress financially, be able to contribute to retirement, continue to pay down your debts, making a career move can increase your quality of life immensely, like overnight. So that is it for today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you want to see more videos like this from me, hit that red subscribe button down there. I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and I'll see you guys soon in my next video. Bye. Honest.